So hello, good morning, everyone. Just let me start talking while we see people, more and more people joining. Welcome to this today's webinar concerned with the topic of impact, societal impact. Let me first introduce myself very briefly. Philipp is my name. I'm working with Elsevier as what we could call a research intelligence consultant. So I'm supporting customers all over the globe to measure and manage and increase quality of the research and impact. And that's what I would like to talk about today with my lovely colleague Helen, who will step in after some time and also introduce herself. So let's kick it off. And I guess I have to share my slides and we can get going. So I hope you see my slides. So as long as, okay, I get confirmation, that's good. So talking about impact, in an increasingly competitive research landscape, the ability to measure, manage, and increase your societal impact is crucial for success. No matter, by the way, if you are a private university, a university, or a business school, so an institution involved in research. And because this is so important, in this webinar, we'd like to share with you some general remarks about what impact is and share some actionable insights in how you can actually increase and showcase your impact. And we will do it along a certain number of guiding questions. First of all, of course, that's a buzzword, right? Everyone is talking about impact, but what is impact actually? So let's start with the definition in a good scientific approach. I will discuss why and in which specific way does all of this matter. So why is it important? How to proactively manage and increase your impact. While Helen then would share with you how to measure it, how to report on it, how to showcase it, before we wrap it up with a summary and some takeaways and allow you to ask questions. By the way, you are already now, I guess, able to submit questions into the Q&A. So you should see some sort of button allowing you to post questions. Please do so. Whenever they pop up in your mind, we will turn to them and answer them at the end of the meeting, right? That's the last bullet point that you see here on that slide. All right, so what is impact? Let me start with a piece of art. What you see here is a scholar in his cell. And if you look at that picture, what is obvious is that it's the most beautiful weather outside, right? But this guy prefers to hide in this dungeon, turning not towards like the world itself, but representations of the world, right? You see a globe, some texts, etc. And that was, I would say, a model of science for quite a long time. The cell of the scholar, where they sort of read and did research, somehow detached, right, from practical concerns of the people. And that cell of the scholar was later then replaced or transitioned into the infamous ivory tower as a metaphor that sort of describes or accuses science, if you will, to be largely detached from reality. And as we all know, somehow science was driven out of this ivory tower and not so long ago. And I think it's needless to say that research in higher education nowadays is much more expected to open up towards society, to interact with society in many, many ways for many, many reasons that we will talk about in a minute. I think you can confirm this. So what are the forms of interaction with society? I use this interaction term a bit as a synonym for impact or societal impact, because you create an impact, right, by interacting with society. For quite a long time, and there's still some people today who, from the top of their head, think about classic publication impact, right? When talking about discussing impact of research. So that would be classic metrics like citations, but we also, of course, also have alternative metrics nowadays to add to that. So publication metrics is a very established form of impact, citations, peer perception. What also has been around for quite some time is technology transfer, with some manifestations like patents, spin-offs, copyrights that you might hold. A newer field is policies and governments, so policy papers, studies that your research might have influenced. So you might want to know about this. Of course, collaborations with non-research institutions from industry, politics, NGOs, that is, of course, a form of societal impact. I don't know how many business schools are here or universities with a focus on higher education, but definitely education of graduates with a certain mindset, right, to go out there and make the world a better place. That is a very important form of societal impact. And then let me add open access or open science, as it's called nowadays, related to the publication impact. And that means that you make results of your research, and that can be both a full text of a publication or a data set with a piece of primary data. You make that available to everyone, right? You don't hide it. You make it available, and it can accelerate innovation and exchange right within the global scholarly community. What you might have missed on the previous slide is the SDGs. The SDGs nowadays are very established, very well known, just like a reference framework to assign every interaction to certain challenges that humanity is facing. Nowadays, of course, you know all of that. So why is it important? And nowadays more than ever, right? I don't have to mention the challenges that humanity is facing and that we all have to tackle together, of course. But let me break it down maybe a bit. So why is it important to proactively increase the impact of publications, right? Enforce, foster citations, classic alternative metrics. Of course, you increase your institution's visibility or your research visibility this way. With technological transfer, you drive technological progress for the sake of humanity, of course, by making sure that your research inspires policies and decisions in politics and business. You supply knowledge and facts and figures, right, to have foster better decisions in all sorts of sections of society. Same for cross-sectional collaborations. In higher education, you might want to educate graduates that make a difference, and with open access and open science, as just mentioned, you accelerate progress in science, and that already makes a ton of sense. However, looking at it through an institutional lens, by doing all of this, you will increase your institution's relevance and visibility, right, as a hotspot for research and innovation and higher education in an increasingly competitive and globalized research landscape. So how to proactively manage or increase impact? I'm sure you all know about the classic management cycle, as I call it, a regulatory cycle that would apply certain regular checks and balances to what you want to measure. So everything begins with finding out where you are, right? So that's an action of measurement, because of course you can only measure or manage what you're trying to, what you're able to. You can only manage what you're able to measure. Sorry for that. So it all starts with finding out where you are, and depending on if you're happy with that or not, you would agree on strategic goals, long-term goals, for example, to increase your impact in a certain field, impact of a certain type or kind. Then you will define SMART, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely success criteria. Break it down into things that you can actually measure before you take action, right? You make a management decision. In research management, you would typically strengthen your strengths and weaken your weaknesses, and apply some other measures. So you take action, and then of course you might want to know if you're moving into the right direction, right? So if your decision has the desired effect. So you will measure your performance, compare it to how things were, right? Where you started from, before you make certain decisions, accelerating things, maybe before you then find out where you stand, to see if there has been any progress. This is something that we can not really help you with. Of course, we do consulting, right? Help you to design better, more efficient processes. But where we come into play is data, right? Because that's a data-driven exercise. That's where we are able to help. So find out where you stand and measure your performance regularly from time to time. Before my colleague Helen takes over, let me just briefly explain what we mean by dual lens, because it's in the title of the webinar. So what do we mean by this? Dual lens differs between the internal perspective, so you look at yourself on the one hand, and the external perspective, so how others look at you. The internal view would allow you to measure and manage increase, like I just briefly touched upon, manage impact inside your institution. So you look at yourself to improve things. The external view would be how others look at you, right? And that's like this, the other lens, where you might want to tell compelling, data-driven stories, right? Do fantastic things and talk about it. Right? That's what it's all about, and this is what we can help you with. So enough theory. Helen, would you mind to take over and talk a bit about how we actually enable, or with which tools, in which form we allow our customers to actually measure and then increase and showcase their societal impact?
Absolutely. Thanks, Philip. Hello, everybody. My name is Helen de Mooij. I too am part of the same team that Philip sits on, and I will show you some practice-based examples of impact. And since Philip was so kind with his pictures of the cell and the ivory tower, I will start off with a comment that'll say, if a tree falls down in the forest and there is nobody there to hear it, does it make a noise? We've all heard that. So when it comes to impact, we have to make sure that the noise is heard and that it reverberates through our community and that it is understood. So I'm going to take you through a few practical examples. Sorry, clicking through. So let's first just give a sense of the group that we work in. Within Elsevier, we are known as Research Intelligence, and what you see on the screen are the solutions and how they tackle different aspects, such as the solutions that focus on research strategy, the solutions that focus on expertise and collaboration through to research funding, conducting research, research management, and impact and engagement. Now, we have very many different solutions that offer data, that offer insights, and quite a few of them can be translated into a measure or a visibility of impact. As part of today's session, because we are on a clock, I will click through. I'm going to be showing you examples specific to the solutions named SciVal, which is a benchmarking solution using bibliometric analysis and metrics. Pure, which is a research information management system. If you look at SciVal, it is a strategic forward-looking benchmarking tool. Pure is really looking at operational management of your research activities, what is happening in your institute today. And then Interfolio is about ensuring that when you look at your academic staff, they are more than the sum of their parts. They focus on the research stuff, but also teaching activities and all of the service components. So really looking at your academic staff and all the aspects that they touch in their day-to-day activities. So let's look at the first few examples as I try to click through, which is an exciting experience sometimes when you click and it doesn't want to click. So here's the wheel. Philipp already took you through this, so I won't dive into too much. But focusing on higher education, we can help you measure, manage, and increase various sorts of societal impact. So what you're seeing here is a researcher profile. The researcher in question is Mr. Mark Dufton, and you can see on the screen not only how much activity he's done. He's got 22 research outputs. He's got a bunch of activities, some press and media, some courses that he's designed. There is indeed also a very traditional measure of societal impact in our impact templates. He has some research data sets and has used some of the university facilities and infrastructure. This is one way of looking at what Mark has done, and the PlumX widgets at the top give you a sense of the reach of the impact within the community. This is what we call a backend page. So this is Mark looking at his data internally. Clicking through. Now you can also look through to a record that Mark would have published, and you can see all of the bibliographic and the bibliometric data. But there too, on an individual record, you can see the PlumX and the altmetric widgets. So showing what societal mentions have been made on this particular bit of research that Mark in this case has published. And we can aggregate those numbers up for clusters of records as well. And you can see, if you want to drill down even further, there's a link there that says view the research outputs with PlumX data. So it's not just about, this is just a summary page. But if you
Okay, I see that my colleague's internet connection is a bit unstable today. Let's just wait for a bit longer.
Philipp, I think it's a good idea to take over.
Okay. Okay, so I will take over now. Sorry for that. Technical issues beyond our control. So Helen was just explaining a backend view on a person's activities and achievements, collecting or recording, capturing a broad array of Mark's achievements and outcomes. In this case, allowing to get an impression of this person's publications impact in form of classical citations and alternative metrics, both measured in form of the old metrics donut and the so-called plumpprint. Plumpprint is interesting because it can measure impact in social media, right? So Twitter mentions. So we are able to do this. This is a backend view that is typically used to monitor people's performance and maybe evaluate them against certain targets that you might have agreed on with them. So person profiles measuring their publication impact. Besides measuring, capturing publication perception, our solutions are also able to automatically tag content against sustainable development goals. We have, I don't know if it can be called AI, but it's a powerful algorithm that would work with the abstracts of a publication to automatically assign it to certain SDGs, which is pretty useful because then you would be able to know without having to do any manual work in which SDGs your researchers are publishing, right, or are active. So that's automated SDG tagging. Needless to say that all of this, both the publication metrics and the SDG tags on the publications, can be aggregated upwards, right, to create an SDG activity or SDG engagement profile for the person, right, and then aggregate it even more upwards. That would create an SDG profile for your whole institution. Just examples, lifting the curtain. Another useful service that we or our solutions provide that we can create if we now move away from publications more to cross-sectoral collaborations, we would be able to create a network analysis for your person, single persons, or parts of your organization or your organization as a whole that would show you with whom worldwide, with which research institutions, industry partners, NGOs, who in your institution is doing exactly what, right? So that's a holistic network analysis, again, fully automatically calculated from the data in our systems, typically from projects with their internal, external partners and or applications. So this is something we can do. A pretty new and exciting service that we have is that we are able to create an impact narrative for a project. And what you see here on the slide is a screenshot with the colorful pie, sort of a pie chart, right? On the right side, this is what we call the impact signal. Impact signal means that we would calculate and visualize the impact of a project in certain aspects. For example, significance, right? So how significant is the research? Novelty, how new or disruptive is it? Collaboration, how collaborative is the research? Transferability, how likely is it that there will be some sort of tech transfer or just another societal impact will come out of that? And there are solutions would automatically create this impact signal or impact widget. And on top of that, create full text. And that's what you see on the left called summary. That would be a summary, like full text describing the impact or the impact potential of this project. And besides this summary text, you would get comparable texts on each of the aspects, right, that are also visible from the widget. So automated impact narratives that you can use then, of course, for internal evaluation, reporting on the one hand, and external showcasing. That's another solution that we have to dig even deeper into measuring publication impact. That's an out-of-the-box tool allowing you to find out in seconds if your people are publishing in high-quality journals or not. So we're able to measure all of this. This, by the way, is a screenshot from SciVal that is working on Scopus as the world's largest journal article database. So we have a huge amount of data to drill down into, delivering all sorts of interesting insights like this. So again, publication impact. Same tool is also able to measure your institution's SDG engagement and to visualize it in certain forms or widgets. Aggregations that you see here, that's an example of an institution that has a high engagement, especially in SDG 10, 8, and others. The London Business School, by the way, as you see on the left on top. Very interesting, we didn't touch upon it yet, is policy impact. So whenever your research is cited in a policy paper issued by a government or an NGO, so in case your people actually have an influence on that, we are able to measure this. And that's just one example of our visualization capacities or capabilities to give evidence of that, right? So policy impact. On the bottom, on the left, you see that we can measure output cited, citing policy documents, policy metrics, and other things. So that was just, we call it the flashlights, right? Just lifting the curtain, just to give you an impression of how much it is we can do, enabling you to manage, measure societal impact. Before we conclude the webinar, let me briefly touch on reporting, right? So what have we seen? We have showed you how to measure it. Reporting means to even aggregate this data even more. We have powerful tools enabling you to report on various forms of impact flexibly. That's an internal perspective, while some of the examples that we have shown are more like an external showcasing act. So we have various forms of reporting here. How do you then tell your impact story? What you've seen is more an internal lens, right? If you remember the researcher profile, what we have seen in the beginning is the backend view. But you can also make it public. What you see here is a public researcher profile, same guy, Mark Dufton, for whom we create a public researcher profile, right? Showcasing his work, his results, his excellence, his SDG engagement. And that's a multi-purpose tool allowing open science and making public, for example, your SDG engagement. So we can create public research profiles, Google indexed, right? So people will come across him, come across you when searching for certain people on expertise in the web. We aggregate this upwards, so we would be able to create tiles on your website. And if people click on it, and that's what you see on the bottom, we'll be able to discover who in your institution is active in which of the SDGs. So that's a filter, basically, but makes your SDG engagement public and discoverable. To wrap it up, so I hope we were able to show you how and in which way we can help you to measure, manage, and increase various sorts of societal impact, as this wheel is showing. I hope we could explain how important it is to, on the one hand, look at yourself and proactively get better in creating, fostering, actually developing an impact on society. That would be the internal lens, but also how important it is to make some noise about it, right? Tell your story, do good things and talk about it. Helen, I love your comparison with the tree in the wood, right? That actually makes noise, so let people know that you got it down. You got it down. Okay, but most important, or also important as well, of course, that you not only then would be able to contribute to solving the huge problems that humanity is facing nowadays. Of course, you also would be able to increase your institution's relevance and visibility, right, as a research institution in an increasingly competitive and globalized research landscape. Okay, that was it. Feel free to make contact. We'll be happy to talk. I'm not sure if we would send out emails to all of you who have participated today. You can also use one of these email addresses you see on the slide to write to us, to my colleague Helen and myself. We might then forward you to other colleagues, depending on regional responsibility, then to make contact with you. I now stop sharing, I guess. Alexandra, correct me if I'm wrong, to see if there are any questions in the chat.
I think that's lovely. I know that Helen is online through the mobile phone, but cannot see any questions. So if you want to check the Q&A widget and see what you can answer. Also, please, to all of you attending, add your questions in the Q&A widget to Philipp and also Helen, and
Okay.
we'll try to answer.
I see some questions now. Maybe I will just go through them one by one. Hesma is right, I cannot see these on my SciVal. When will it be available? Yeah, it seems you're alluding to a certain screenshot from SciVal. I don't know about your module configuration, but SciVal has certain modules, right, that can be, of course, activated, deactivated. In case you have a contact, a customer success manager or an account manager that typically helps you with SciVal or is your point of contact, please ask that question to him or her. It might be an issue of the modules, right, that you have a license for.
Alternatively, just send one of us an email.
Yes.
And we can find the correct contact and make sure that you have the right configuration.
Welcome back, Helen. I didn't.
I'm on the phone. Sorry. My sincere apologies to all.
Elsie is asking, is it possible to arrange this webinar for institution? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Of course, please make contact. So we will put you in contact then with the colleague to talk to you and take it further, but we can also have a role in that. We're happy to do so. So answer is yes. Next question, what product helps with the impact narrative? Looks particularly useful. Yes, it is useful indeed. It's called Impact AI. That's a pretty new service that we have just launched into the market. If you want to know more about it and have a bilateral talk about it, again, please make contact with one of us, Helen or myself, and then we'll be happy to arrange a call looking at your individual perspective and use case around this. Natalie, I'm not sure if I get the question in the article. Negative consequences to employing only academic hallmarks, or publishers tend to provide academic metrics. Yeah, this question seems to be about certain metrics, and of course you're totally right, Natalie. There's a discussion about if how do they say, if what is measured really is important, or if what is important really can be measured. So good question. We are aware of that discussion. This is why we're trying to find or create more and more metrics, right, that do not only measure quantitative things, but also qualitative things. And Impact AI is a good example for that. Alexandra, if you can provide me with Natalie's email address, I will get back to you, Natalie, individually after the call.
Of course, we'll get back to everyone you just pointed out to analyze.
I don't see any more questions, so I guess it's time to say thanks a lot for your precious time. We really appreciate you having listened to us. I hope it was helpful, inspiring in some sort. Alexandra, will we send out slides or some more information to all the attendees?
Yes.
And please also be sure to send our contact details. And should you have any questions following up, once you've had a chance to absorb, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So goodbye. Have a great rest of the week. Thanks for attending.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.